All right, is everyone on Teams ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
We'll go ahead and call to order the August 6, 2020 Watertown Plan Commission meeting. Can I get a roll call?
Dolly,
Here.
Olutsky,
Present.
Brink,
Here.
Kays,
Right, here.
Ford,
Here.
Culhane.
Here.
Alrighty. Item 3 on the agenda is the
Oh,
invitation for public comment.
I probably should say that Dargis, Johnson, and Hanson are absent. We have a quorum.
Good deal. Thank you.
I thought something was missing.
Item 3, invitation for public comment participants. So if there's anybody in the room that would like to speak to the board on something that's not on the agenda today, we'll have a spot for that at the end after the regular agenda. Feel free to sign up. Moving on to item 4 is the approval of the agenda.
I have some amendments.
Okay.
And also, so in the agenda packets that were sent out, the order has changed. If you guys noticed, the one that's posted online is the most current. And so I will actually, though, we'll be striking item A for the commission consideration of resolution number 2020-38, adopting the boundaries of the TIF number 14. That will be coming forward on the August 20th meeting instead.
Okay. Striking 2020-38.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is that the only change, Brandy?
Yes, and then yeah, just other than what you guys have, and the people that are here for Bonnie and Jeff, I gave them the amended cover page just for the order. But do you have that, Blake?
No.
So number
Let
A
me-
is.
if you could just scroll down on there, I just want to see how the order changed. So C has been changed. Okay, so that's 20 and 20. So 38 is gone. 36, 39, and 35. Okay.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Okay, motion by Brink,
Second, Colleen.
second by Colhane. Any discussion on the agenda before we approve? Take a roll call.
Dolly,
Yes?
Olutsky,
Yes.
Brink,
Yes.
Kays,
Yep.
Ford,
Yes.
Culhane.
Yes.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the July 23rd, 2020 meeting. Do I have a motion? Any corrections that we need to make?
I'll make that motion to approve the minutes.
Ford seconds.
A motion and a second. Any discussion on these before we take a vote? Okay, roll call.
Dolly,
Yes?
Olutsky,
Yes.
Brink,
Yes.
Kays,
Yep.
Ford,
Yes.
Culhane.
Yes.
All right. Moving on then to item 6B on the agenda, resolution number 2020-36.
Okay, thank you, Blake. So this is commission consideration of resolution number 2020-36, a zoning text amendment to chapter 2129, the CL Lake Commercial District of the revised ordinances of the city of Watertown. So this goes back, we just created this CL district in 2019, and obviously as a new district, a new zoning district, that there would be, it wouldn't be perfect, and there would be some changes that would have to be made as it was utilized. And so, as you all recall, Stony Point it was approved on Monday that they will be rezoning to the CL Lake Commercial District. So, in utilizing that, we looked into the language a little deeper. And so what we're amending here is we used the word impervious, which has a deeper engineering meaning than I think what the subcommittee and plan commission and council, I think for that matter, had the intentions of it meaning. So when we said on there for the design standards, And actually, maybe if I pull up the full ordinance, that'd be better. So basically though, so we have the design standards, and under structure, then we said, currently it says impervious areas shall not exceed 50% of the total lot area. And I believe the intention was that we would have open space. And so we thought using impervious encompassed that, but it does have a deeper meaning. So then just to be specific, then I think what we're proposing to add is that we'll add wetlands and water bodies, including required detention ponds, shall not count towards impervious areas for the purpose of this calculation. So basically, I mean, and the one, for example, that makes it easier to discuss is Stony Point. So instead of the wetlands that are existing there counting against their area and them not being able to utilize that because it will remain open space because they can't develop them, then that's just to clarify that the wetlands can be included in their total lot area. Does that make sense? Heath, maybe
Yeah,
you want
I
to
think it does.
clarify or...
Randy?
No, yeah. Mr. Roby?
I think it could be written clearer. I'm not sure if we should be using, if impervious does have another meaning, perhaps we should rewrite this to not use that word at all and come up with if it's the board's intention that what Brandy was getting at, that wetlands can be, that the board was really meaning that there needs to be open space and wetlands can be included as part of that calculation, which I think is the intention of what Brandy is getting at here. If the board's intention is that, I think it can be reworded to clearly express that intention.
We do have. in
Yeah,
our
Matt,
defi-
if I could speak to that, this is Heath. I know Brandy and I went back and forth, and we actually visited with the mayor on this as well, trying to find the right language here, the right terminology. We contemplated terms such as using the term open space, but then, defining what that looks like in relation to development and otherwise built out structures and impervious areas. We also contemplated using the term developed or undeveloped. But by that definition, you could regrade land and put a park bench on it, and that's technically development, but yet would still meet the functional open space requirement that we're referring to. So we too agreed that this doesn't, it's kind of hard to find the right words for this, what the intent is without getting into the weeds on all the other definitions. But if somebody had some recommendations, we'd certainly run with those.
Do we have a technical definition for green space, Heath?
That's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head. You know, Randy?
Bless me, sorry. Did you ask if I
Definition for
knew?
green space?
I don't think we do, but I'm checking. No,
part of the-
we don't.
Part of the intention of using impervious is so that you capture the things that you do want to include in that calculation, like parking lots and roads and that sort of thing, right? As well as the structures.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is Commissioner Brink. We do have in our ordinance the definition lot coverage, and it's that portion of a lot covered with structures and hard surfaces such as parking, loading, and storage. I don't know if that better fits what we're looking for, but that's already in our ordinance and defined.
What is that?
Lot coverage.
The
Lot
def-
coverage.
that sounds like it could be a very good option to entertain, just referencing the lot coverage area not exceeding 50%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's effectively what we were after.
Well, I think, Blake and Dinah, when we were talking about this, I mean, our intention all along was, I think we were just saying we didn't want to see, more than 50% of man-made impervious structures being located on the property.
Yeah,
Chair, please, Liam?
Yes.
Could it be just as simple as saying that artificial impervious area? I mean, again, I don't know the nomenclature and the vocabulary of the engineers, and I would default to Mayor Karen or Mr. Bonai, but could it just be simple as inputting artificial in front of impervious?
I think the challenge there, and like Heath had just stated, is if you do make green space, is that considered artificial at that point? Because you've now developed it into it? I don't know.
I really like Brink's suggestion. I think that that's clean cut what we're wanting to accomplish.
And it is in use in other areas within the ordinance already. It does seem like at the surface that meets the intentions that we had discussed.
This is Ford. I think that language that Mr. Brink discussed is a lot cleaner. I guess I find it cumbersome in our ordinance if we said we were redefining the word impervious by eliminating some of the things that actually are considered impervious. I don't think that's really the best way to go. I think that lot coverage term is so much better, especially if we've already got it used in our ordinances and it's already defined. It seems like the perfect solution.
Mm-hmm.
I believe we do have public hearing on this one here too. Go ahead and open the public hearing if anybody's here to speak on behalf or against.
Casey DeBoer. I've sat through a couple earlier planning commissions meetings and the most recent city council meeting and listened to all the comments about how much time, effort, and diligence went into crafting the new lake commercial zone to make sure the desired commercial development could happen harmoniously with existing residential desires. But here you are after the very first lake commercial zone has been approved, looking to change that language that was diligently arrived at because it is inconvenient to that first development. In the documents for the TIF for the Stony Point that you deferred action on tonight, there was a preliminary plan submitted. And I would encourage you to take a look at that and look at the density of the buildings in that development and compare that to what you envisioned when you put this together, because there is nowhere near 50% of the ground that is available for open space. So I think this seems a little hasty. It seems a little convenient to the developer's whim on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the room to speak?
No.
Is it, Chair?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I think we have a resident drainage expert, don't we? Is the mayor on the line? I see her on the guest list.
I am on the line. I'm flattered that you're calling me an expert. Not.
Well, I'm just curious. I mean, I'm just doing some real brief Googling here, which of course is very, very dangerous, and I understand that. But wetlands are impervious structures, right? I mean, that's the issue from an engineering standpoint.
Wetlands are impervious.
They are or not?
They are, just like pavement. They do not absorb water. Any water raises the level of the water. It doesn't disappear.
I think the purpose of the impervious or the lot coverage issue, right, was it's one for stormwater and drainage, right?
No, and I don't, not necessarily with the CL zone. I think it was to preserve a more open, natural setting. I mean, the Plan Commission can weigh in on this. What is your desire?
Well, I can tell you what my desire is, because I know 3 of us sat in a room for 4 months and we had several conversations about this. And if we would have known that the term impervious being used as part of the subdivision and drainage regulations was going to complicate what the intent was, we would have used the word impervious.
I agree. You know, specifically, we talked about talked about protecting the natural aesthetics. We talked about spacing between structures. So it really truly was about the coverage of the lot and not whether or not it was technically impervious.
I mean, I understand Mr. DeBoer's concern, but this isn't an about face from the intent of what we were trying to do with the original ordinance. At least that's my recollection.
This is Ford. I agree with you, Blake. That I believe was our intention as you just described it. And perhaps we needed, or there still needs to be, a deeper discussion on the stormwater issue and these parts of this property, the wetlands and the detention pond that really aren't considered considered impervious, and how stormwater and water runoff is going to affect the lake going over those impervious. Maybe this has raised a totally additional issue that needs to be addressed.
I think that issue on the stormwater drainage and impervious comes at the time of master planning.
And Chair, I didn't mean to drag us into the proverbial wetlands here, but I just wanted to make sure that we weren't defeating the purpose of our ordinance. I didn't understand the purpose was purely one of open spaces and lot coverage. I didn't realize, I thought that there was a underlying stormwater issue, or perhaps that was to avoid a stormwater or drainage issue. But if that wasn't the purpose, then I don't have any concerns.
Now, the ordinance really doesn't address that specifically here. Heath, you know, from your perspective on the engineering side, all the requirements from a stormwater and construction requirement, runoff, they would still be subject to regardless of the specific zoning requirements.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, you're exactly right. All the stormwater regulations for this development would be administered as they normally would with any other development within the community. That includes Chapter 23, the drainage regulations, and then the temporary BMP for construction purposes, those requirements, and then also the permanent best management practices, such as your water quality and water quantity BMPs that are triggered per the regulations in those documents.
So Heath, are you basically saying that if we make this change with the lot coverage, the quality of the water in Lake Kempeska that comes off this property, we have provisions in place to protect that?
That is correct. There are still provisions in place for the property, the developer to be held accountable to and carry out, not only through construction, but also post-construction for long-term durations.
And I might add too, if anything, having this provision in the lake commercial ordinance is just assuring that it'll be more protected. And then also we'll fall back on those manuals that Heath had referenced as far as the federal guidelines for Clean Water Act and whatnot.
I would echo too, Mr. Chairman, some of the comments from Commissioner Kays. Having sat in on those committee meetings as a staff member with Brandy, I too understood the intent of this to simply be undeveloped open space, green space, whatever we want to call it, area, and did not think to, when we put the term impervious in there, didn't think to consider sites where there would be water as part of the lot. And so now that just so happens our first application came through as water as part of the surface of the lot. And that area being a wetland and fitting the otherwise intended meaning of this ordinance as left as open, green, undeveloped area, I think that's where this definition amendment has come to fruition now.
Thank you, Heath. Any just additional discussion on this? Do we still need a motion on the resolution? I'll close the public hearing.
Motion to approve. Hayes.
A motion to approve by Case.
The amended language.
As suggested.
So with lot coverage in place of impervious area.
Yeah, so I pulled it up here. This is what I changed it to. So this is what I'll send to Blake to sign. So we'll strike impervious area, and now it'll say lot coverage shall not exceed 50% of the total lot area.
I'll second the motion.
I'm a second by Brink.
This is Brink again. I just kind of want to bring up some discussion. When we first introduced lot coverage into the ordinance, it was back in 2014. We did that when we were increasing some density, specifically in our R3 zone, and we intended it to ensure that there'd be green space around properties. Now when we're out at the lake, I think not only do we want green space, but as we've mentioned before, earlier this meeting and in previous meetings, we also want to ensure water quality even more than, we do in town. I mean, we try to ensure it in town too, but it's even more important at the lake. So I wonder if, leaving the term impervious and then allowing applicants to come to us for a variance request, so that way we could still look at applications, wouldn't be a better solution.
It's my feeling, this is Bonnie, it's my feeling that the water should not be included as the impervious because it's the water. It should just be solid land, 50% of the solid land.
I might just add too. So when if a property is required to, if they have wetlands or not, at least it's being able to be utilized. Otherwise, because right now, any lot that you own, you can't use half of it, which is already quite restrictive.
But then the property
utilizing.
that you can develop on is just going to be so concentrated that there's no grass, no nothing. It's all going to be, but yet on one side you got all the water and everything else is just boom, crowded right in there with nothing, dividing it, barely a tree.
Commissioner
So
Brink again.
Bonnie, it sounds like what you're saying is you wouldn't count the waterways at all, not for or against you.
Correct.
This is Brink again. The way I was kind of looking at this when I was reviewing this, I kind of tried to envision a lot, and I thought, if there's a lot that's 10,000 square feet and 5,000 square feet of it is in wetlands, do we want all remaining 5,000 feet to be built upon, or would we rather that be half of that and be 2,500? And 2,500 might be a little restrictive, and maybe it is too restrictive, but would we rather have the applicant come to us with a variance request than just outright change the ordinance now before we've had any building in our
The first time we
lake district?
varianced the ordinance, you basically effectively lowered the bar. So if we're setting ourselves up for variance requests, we might as well just make everything a conditional use and just handle it that way. I mean, I hate creating policy that you got to bend the rule the first time it comes out. If we don't like the policy, then gut the policy. Setting it up for a variance is just bad form.
Right, because we do look at it, you know, if we have an ordinance and that, that we are getting a lot of variance requests for, then we do say, then we probably should just have an ordinance amendment. There are always the odd cases though where, you know, we get variances all the time.
Aren't we changing it already for the first time out?
Well, we're trying to set the well, and what the intentions were, like in the subcommittee meetings, and it was brought to our attention just that impervious had a different definition than what that group was aware of. So then that's just where we just wanted to clarify it right away.
I want to say it's not just the group. This board
Right.
passed this unanimously, as did the city council.
Yep.
Right.
I don't think it's just, you know, I don't want to say it's just the subcommittee. We all talked our way through this once. If we're having buyer's remorse on it, then maybe the idea is just leave the impervious in and we run with it. And then but we don't have impervious identified or defined in the zoning regulation. I think there's a legal argument that they could make an argument that impervious is only germane to the stormwater drainage aspect of it. But the point is, from my perspective, we either just, you know, qualify in what we were trying to say before, or just leave it as it is.
No, I don't think so. Todd, are you still there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be interesting
and
to listen back on
you know, as-
discussion and to, you know, to really hear the intention, because I'm sure.
I listened to the whole meeting from the March 5th meeting when we approved this ordinance, and that particular point didn't come up in that meeting. And I know there were other meetings, and I know there was a subcommittee that looked at this too, but at our meeting where we approved it, there was no discussion on that bullet.
Not about the 50%.
Nope, or the term impervious.
Because that's
But
kind
it
of
did come up when we were
big deal.
talking about the particular use that was in front of us. And the fact was that as we had that discussion and prior to the approval of it, we talked about the intention of it before the board acted on it, and as Todd said, before the city council ultimately acted on it.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, from a staffing standpoint, I would concur with your comments there. I think the intent here was to clean up the language to better reflect the intention that was originally set out for, and which again goes back to undeveloped green space, open space being preserved on a certain percentage of a lot that's being developed as a CL under the CL district.
Mr. Chair,
No.
call the question.
We'll take a vote.
Okay, Dolly,
Yes.
Aletsky.
Mr. Chair.
No.
Mr. Chair.
Oh,
Mr. Roby?
Are you voting to call the question, or are you voting on the action?
I'm calling,
Voting
my motion to call the question is to bring the action before the board.
Right, I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew what they were voting on. Are you voting to end debate, or are you
Yes.
voting, okay. So
Yes.
like,
And debate, call the question.
just,
two-thirds required to end debate.
yeah, so this is not for the actual item. This is to the motion to end debate. So should we I'll restart. Dolly,
Yes.
Aletsky,
Yes.
Brink,
No.
Kays,
Yes.
Ford,
No.
Cohane.
Yes.
So motion passes.
So
Oh,
now
it's-
we'll take a,
It's the motion would be of the 6 here. It's not on a conditional use. It's 4 to 6. 4 out of 6, it's a 2/3 vote of the sitting board.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
said it passed.
Yep. So call to question has passed. We will now take a roll call vote on the resolution.
Dolly,
Yes.
Oletsky,
No.
Brink,
No.
Kays,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Culhane,
Yes.
motion passes 4-2.
Thank you, Brandy. We'll move on now to item 6C on the agenda, which is resolution number 2020-39.
Okay, thank you, Blake. So this is approving the plat of Valley View Second Edition. And this, as you guys are probably aware of, the Valley View subdivision up north of 14th Ave and west of 2nd Street East, or west. So now they have an approved preliminary plan, and they phase 1, their first edition, will be finishing up here very soon. And so now they're ready to expand onto their second edition. You guys will recall in the recent past, we annexed and zoned the area for the second edition. And so now we have the plat in front of you for approval, and then attached to the not in your packets, they didn't make it in time, but the development agreement is also attached. Obviously, Plan Commission doesn't take action on it, it's just for information, and then City Council will act on it on August 17th when this goes to council. The development agreement's pretty standard. The only thing that is different than typical agreements is just that we have that pro rata share for the cost recovery of 2nd Street Northeast, or Northwest. I keep messing that up. So you can see here, there will be the extension of 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and then 18th will come across and connect over to 2nd Street. There are 20 R1 lots, which is single family, 5 R2, which is single family attached or duplexes, and then 4 R3 lots, which are multifamily residential. And then the R3 zoning abuts 2nd Street, as 2nd Street is a collector, so it creates a nice transitional zoning.
Okay, the R2 is going to be along 2nd.
It's actually,
Where's it at on our
so
stuff?
here is R3, and
Okay,
these will be R3,
okay,
these will be R2,
yeah,
and then the rest will be R1.
okay.
And this is just a continuation of what we've previously zoned there.
Okay, good.
Yep.
But it wasn't in our packet, was it? Okay.
Brandy, on the 18th is, within the land use plan and changes we made, are we looking at that as a minor collector?
Actually, no. So I did, and so, okay, thanks for bringing that up. Because in the development agreement, you'll see that I did call it a collector, but it's a local street, it's a local through, and 2nd Street is actually the collector. So, I did,
It's on the back of that.
I thought the master plan showed 18th as being a minor collector. Maybe I'm wrong.
So 18th is going to go all the way over to 2nd?
yes, so here's.
That's a good point that Todd brings up, that it seems, I don't remember if it was 18th either off the top of my head, but we did look at that going through potentially on that comp plan.
I just remember being, we were talking about when my property where we built our new offices and making 18th a collector route going back to the east. And I know we had discussions when we were doing the land use plan about 18th running again to the west as a something of a collector route. Maybe with the school we didn't want to do that. I can't remember.
Yeah, Commissioner Carey, I think you're right. The school property and then those existing houses, I know we ran into some issues there when we were looking at that route being a collector.
Right. I just couldn't remember. I'm sorry. Don't mean to bring it up.
Well, I'll find it here. In the comp plan, we actually connected it up to 19th.
19th. Okay, thank you.
So from 81, it will, because of these houses being there, it kind of cut that connection off. So then now it will curve up into 19th.
Thank you, Brandy.
Yep.
Okay. I'll open the public hearing on this if anybody's here to speak on behalf or against.
There is no public hearing.
There's no public hearing on this one.
No. Not for the plats.
Brandy Heath here. I think it's fair to say too that the plat presented here before the commission is in general compliance with the previously approved preliminary plan.
Yes, it is.
Is there any additional questions from the board? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Have a motion by Bonnie to approve.
Ford seconds.
And a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and take a roll call vote on that.
Dolly,
Yes?
Aletsky,
Yes.
Brink,
Yes.
Kays,
Yep.
Ford,
Yes.
Culhane.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 6D, which is going to be resolution number 2020-35, right? This is the
Yes.
airport.
Yep, thank you, Blake. So this is approving the plat of the Watertown Airport First Subdivision to the municipality of Watertown in the county of Cottington, South Dakota. And this is basically just a cleanup here that you can see in the background information. The property is zoned I-1 light industrial. This is just encompassing all of the airport boundaries. And just getting, I think it's been a while since this has been done. If you guys remember, you probably don't remember, but like a year ago, we've been working on to get this done. Obviously, it's a large project. And then, working between the consultant and then the FAA and making sure that everything was being followed. And then, but we did have a vacation of that Brooklyn addition, that there was some right-of-way that existed still, and that was on the southeast portion of the airport property. But basically just to clean up, to get all of the airport property platted. This is the area where we had that vacation. So those don't exist anymore.
And to give a little more context here, this is Heath again. And working with Todd, our airport manager, some of the board could probably recall that we actually did approve a plat approximately a year ago, maybe a little longer than that. And that plat then went to council, but was never subsequently went through final approvals and filing. It was put on hold because of some determinations by the FAA where we had to negotiate with them on what public rights of way or whether they'd be identified as easements. This all kind of stems back to the efforts of this project and the FAA kind of driving this requirement on the airport to correct any discrepancies in the airport legal descriptions, preserving the airport property boundaries, and then protecting and preserving the accesses that go to and through and across the airport property. So it's kind of an FAA-driven project that was forced upon us, so to speak, that we needed to do to become in compliance with their regulations. And now we've got a draft that the FAA has checked off on and staff's reviewed and also approved, and is why it's before the board again now.
So Heath, as far as those right-of-way easements go, is this driving from like the fence structure of the airport being on right-of-way that needs to be granted that easement?
Well, it's more driving the fact that our roads are on the airport property without any public access identification for them. So when you have a public road going across and through or adjacent to or on the edge of airport property, and there's no public right-of-way platted or there's no easements over it, that tends to cause concern to the FAA when you're looking at it from an airport property management standpoint. And so that's where you see all the roads around here now are covered with right-of-way or access easements and are appropriately accounted for, still being within the confines of the airport property limits.
So does that effectively means then that the right-of-way for those adjacent roads ends at their property line at the fence then?
I believe depending on where you're at, that could be the case. I don't think that's necessarily the case all around the airport property, but it might generally be the case.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments from the board? We'll need a motion for action on this plat.
Motion to approve.
This is Bonnie,
Your
I'll
motion.
second.
Motion by Colhane, second by Aletsky. Any additional discussion on this?
I would just add, Mr. Chairman, if I could, this is a pretty extensive plat, and it did take a lot of dedicated work from our consultants with the survey side of things, with Helms and Associates and their participation in this. And I can tell you it is a great project to get completed if, upon approval of this at the council level, to have the airport property now truly definitively defined in a manner that makes sense and is in compliance with what the FAA would also expect. So I just wanted to note that.
Yeah, just looking at these plats, I mean, the level of detail that's gone into this and the scope of the area that we're talking about, it looks like a huge job. Thank you, Heath.
Are you ready for roll call?
Let's do a roll call vote.
Dolly,
Yes?
Alepsky,
Yes.
Brink,
Yes.
Kays,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Colhane.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right. Item 7 on the agenda is open public comments. Is there anybody in the room there to speak?
No, I don't think so.
Anybody on Teams? Move on to any new business.
None.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
and the mayor might get angry at me. What's the story, Mayor, with this 10th Avenue widening? Is that, or Heath, is it gonna get a public hearing, and will that be Plan Commission, City Council?
This is the mayor, and I will let Heath answer that.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner and Mayor. It's a capital improvement project that's under design right now. We're about 50% complete on the design. And with most capital improvement projects, we typically wouldn't have any kind of a public hearing or formal action of that nature. Normally, it's just, approved via the budgeting function that the council performs by awarding a budget for the project to commence, and then it's administratively carried out through the engineering staff. Now, what I can tell you on that project in particular, there's obviously a lot of public involvement with the adjacent landowners. So we did hold a public open house it was a week and a half ago, and invited all the property owners adjacent to the stretch of 10th Avenue that will be reconstructed. And then subsequent to that meeting, we're also having individual landowner meetings on a one-on-one basis with engineering staff, our consultants, and those property owners, and talking through all the details of the design and any impacts that they might have.
Well, I appreciate that, and you obviously, just like normal, you guys are going above and beyond. I had some people that had already expressed concerns about it. I'm sure what you guys have already heard. I just wasn't sure what, if any, the role the Planning Commission had in it.
No, that's a fair question, Commissioner. I don't see that there would be a traditional role that the Planning Commission would have, again, because of the nature of it being a capital improvement project, reconstruction of existing infrastructure.
Is it based on it being a collector? Is that, so like, in the hypothetical situation, if we were to change that to an arterial or something, downgrade it, would that change the designation through the capital project?
Yes, some of the design components that are being considered and have been put together thus far, you're exactly right. They stem directly from the fact of that road's functional classification being a collector route. That collector route designation does stem not only from our comp plan and our transportation master plan, but also just simply from the facts of the traffic volume that road sees. There's national standards too when it comes to these classifications, and generally speaking, nationwide, those standards for those classifications directly relate to those traffic counts. And so we do have the traffic count data on 10th, and it sees roughly between 4,500 to 5,000 vehicles per day, 4,500 to 4,800, depending on the stretch of the road you're on. And that does put it into that collector classification. The next lower classification would be a local street designation, and that's more your less traveled neighborhood streets, like pretty much most of those off streets along 10th that you would turn off to go into those residential neighborhoods.
Thank you, Director.
You're welcome.
Any other new business?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I would add to Heath again here that starting on Monday, we will be bringing on a new employee in the Community Development Division for the city. So I just wanted to highlight those couple of changes here with the board. With the recent retirement of our building official, if you recall, some of you may or may not be aware that we revamped that position a little bit. We created what we're calling a Community Development Manager, and that position will oversee the building services, the planning and zoning, and code compliance for the city. And the community development manager also wears the building official hat as well, that they act in that official capacity as well. So that interview process has occurred, and we've are getting ready to onboard the new community development manager effective this next Monday here. And so I look forward to introducing you to that individual in the subsequent meetings, and working together with current staff and with her, and continue to improve the development processes and everything, that all these kind of projects we've been working on. Anybody have
sounds
any
great.
questions on that?
No, excited to meet him. Yeah. Thank you, Heath.
Absolutely.
Ask about old business. Any old business?
None that I have.
Any from the board? If there's none, any reason for executive session?
Nope.
If not, then we are adjourned. Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
Do we need a motion? Oh, okay.
Yep. Mr.
All right,
Roby
thank you, everyone.
clarified that for me.
All right,
Thank you.
perfect. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. I forgot about